It was just another quiet Saturday morning when I realized I'd be alone in the house all weekend, with Ayaan. The thought should have meant nothing, but it did. My name is Rehan and I'm 24. I live with my mother and stepfather in a 2-story suburban home in Karachi. When my mother remarried 4 years ago, I gained more than just a stepfather. I gained Ayaan, his son, my stepbrother, and the one person I shouldn't think about the way I do. Ayaan is 28. Built like the men you only ever see on fitness magazines. Broad shoulders, sculpted jaw, skin like burnished bronze. He works in real estate, drives a matte black Corolla, and keeps to himself more than you'd expect for someone so magnetic. He's quiet but not shy. Confident without arrogance. The kind of man who doesn't need to speak much to be heard. When we first met, I hated how easy it was to watch him. At first, I blamed it on curiosity, the novelty of suddenly having a stranger in your house. But novelty fades, and I kept watching. Our relationship has always been a strange dance, cordial at best, tense at worst. We aren't friends, not really. But we share a home, and in moments when no one's looking, I catch him watching me too. It's fleeting, rare, but unmistakable. So when my mother texted that she and my stepfather were leaving early for the anniversary weekend, won't be back until Monday, beta, you boys behave, I felt something unexpected in my chest. Not dread, not boredom, anticipation. I walked downstairs around noon, still in pajama pants, brushing sleep from my eyes. The living room was sunlit and silent, except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. Ayaan was already on the couch, scrolling through his phone in nothing but gray sweatpants and a sleeveless black tee. "Morning," he said without looking up. "Morning," I replied, throat dry. He finally glanced at me, his eyes lingering a second longer than necessary. "You sleep like the dead." I gave a half shrug and went to the kitchen to grab coffee. I could feel him watching me. Or maybe I wanted him to. As I leaned against the counter, I took him in from the corner of my eye. His hair was messy from sleep, his jaw shadowed with stubble. He looked comfortable, undone in a way that made my skin prickle. "You doing anything today?" he asked, voice casual but weighted. "Not really. Might just binge something." Ayaan stood up and walked over, grabbing a glass of water from the cabinet beside me. He was close, too close. I could smell the faint mix of his cologne and sweat. Earthy. Masculine. He drank slowly, then turned to me. "You always just stay in on weekends?" I met his eyes. "Yeah. I guess I'm boring like that." He tilted his head slightly, lips twitching. "I don't think you're boring. That right there. That was how it always started. A phrase. A look. Something just a shade too intimate to be brotherly." Before I could respond, he was already walking away. The rest of the afternoon passed in fragments. I tried to distract myself. YouTube, music, an episode of some forgettable show, but my mind kept looping back to that moment in the kitchen. The way he'd said it. The way he didn't wait for an answer. Around 5 p.m., I stepped out of the shower and found Ayaan in the hallway. Towel around my waist, water dripping from my hair. I almost turned back, but he saw me. His gaze swept over me, unreadable. "You done hogging the bathroom?" I smirked. "All yours." As I moved past him, his hand brushed my arm. Light. Accidental. Maybe. But it stayed. Like electricity. Downstairs, I pulled on a fitted t-shirt and shorts, then flopped onto the couch. The air between us felt charged now. Like a storm was brewing but hadn't broken yet. We ordered pizza, argued over which show to start, and eventually settled into something neither of us really watched. The food came, the drinks flowed, and then the sun set, leaving the house cloaked in a softness that made everything feel closer. He sat next to me, not far, not too close, but enough that I could feel the warmth of his leg near mine. We weren't speaking much, just watching, pretending. But the silence spoke louder than words. "You ever think about how weird this is?" I asked suddenly, surprising even myself. Ayaan didn't look away from the screen. What's weird? Us. This. Living together like this. Being stepbrothers. He finally turned to me. His eyes held something unreadable. Heat, maybe, or just tension stretched thin. I don't think about it much, he said slowly. But sometimes, yeah. His voice was lower now, more intimate. The kind of voice meant only for one person. Why? I shrugged. Feels like there's something unspoken. All the time. There was a long pause. And then he smiled, small and knowing. Maybe some things are better left unspoken. That line stayed with me as we drifted into night, two shadows on the same couch, pretending not to see the lines we were already starting to blur. What made it worse, what made it dangerous, was that I wanted those lines blurred. Even if I knew I'd regret it. Even if I already did. Night wrapped the house in silence. The kind of silence that makes every breath feel louder, every glance sharper, every thought more dangerous. Ayaan and I were still on the couch, now surrounded by empty soda cans, the last crusts of pizza forgotten on the table. The TV flickered with some forgettable show neither of us was really watching. I felt him shift beside me, slow, deliberate, stretching an arm over the back of the couch. His fingers grazed my shoulder, casual, but there was nothing accidental about it. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low. I nodded, keeping my eyes on the screen, trying to pretend I didn't feel the tension crawling up my skin. Yeah. Just tired. Ayaan exhaled through his nose, half amused. "You always say that when you're uncomfortable." That made me turn to him. "What do you mean?" He studied me like he was figuring out a puzzle he already knew the answer to. "You get quiet when your mind's loud." It was such a simple sentence, but it hit like a confession. "You think too much," he added, softer. I wanted to ask what he thought I was thinking about, but I didn't have to. We both knew. There was something about the night, how close we were, how the dim light from the kitchen painted the side of his face in gold, that made the air feel thinner. Every inch of space between us vibrated with something neither of us dared name. Not yet. Ayaan reached for the remote and paused the show. Silence. "Can I ask you something?" he said, eyes still on the screen. "Sure. Have you ever wanted something you weren't supposed to want?" My heart stuttered. I knew what he meant. I felt it in my chest, in my gut, in the tight pull between us. "Yeah," I answered, voice barely above a whisper. His eyes finally met mine, and there was no smirk this time. No teasing. Just heat. "That ever keep you up at night?" he asked. I swallowed hard. "Sometimes." We didn't say anything else for a while. The room felt like it was shrinking around us. All I could hear was the rhythm of my breath and the sound of his thumb tapping against the side of the couch. 1, 2, 3. Like he was counting down to something. Then he leaned in, just a little. Not enough to touch me, but enough to make me feel it. "I see how you look at me sometimes," he murmured. My throat tightened. "Ayaan." He didn't pull away. "You don't have to explain. I just want to know if it's real. Or if I'm crazy." "You're not crazy." The words left my mouth before I could stop them, and they hung in the air between us like smoke. His hand slipped from the back of the couch to my shoulder, then down to my arm. Slow, steady, deliberate. I didn't move. Couldn't. "Say something," he said, voice raw. "I don't know what to say." "Then don't." And then he did it, he closed the distance. His lips brushed against my cheek, not quite a kiss, more like a warning. A question. I could have stopped it. Should have. But I didn't. Instead, I turned my head just slightly. Enough for my lips to find his. The kiss was soft. Uncertain. But full of fire held back too long. I felt years of denial, of silence, unravel between us in a single moment. We pulled apart barely. His breath warmed my skin. "Tell me to stop." I didn't. I couldn't. Instead, I reached for him. Our mouths collided again, this time with purpose, hunger, heat. His hand found my jaw, his fingers firm, possessive. Mine curled into his shirt, pulling him closer like I could make the whole world disappear if I just kept him near. It was wild. Wrong. Addictive. We broke apart, gasping. "Fuck," I whispered, running a hand through my hair. "What are we doing?" His eyes searched mine. Something we should have stopped a long time ago. But we didn't stop. We sat there in the aftermath, our bodies inches apart, hearts pounding like war drums. No one said it out loud, but everything had changed. No going back. "I shouldn't feel like this," I said quietly. Ayaan looked at me for a long time. "But you do." I nodded. "Me too." We sat like that for a while, neither retreating, neither advancing. Caught in a space where the line between right and wrong had already been crossed, and neither of us wanted to return. Eventually, Ayaan stood, stretching. His shirt lifted just enough to reveal a sliver of skin. I looked away too late. He noticed. He smirked, not cruelly but knowingly. The dynamic had shifted. Something inside him had settled. He knew what I wanted. And now I knew he wanted it too. "Get some sleep," he said, voice low, playful. "We've got all weekend." I watched him disappear upstairs, each step echoing in my chest. I sat there, stunned, pulse racing, lips still tingling. I knew it was wrong. But I also knew it wasn't over. The house was silent, but my mind wasn't. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Ayaan's kiss still etched on my lips, my skin still buzzing from where he'd touched me. The room felt too hot, my sheets too constricting, my heartbeat too loud. This wasn't just tension anymore. It was desire. Spoken, tasted, felt. There was no room for denial, not after the kiss, not after the way he looked at me. We weren't just two guys testing boundaries. We were two men standing on the edge of something irreversible. I should have felt guilt. But what I felt was something dangerously close to relief. Like I'd finally taken a breath after years underwater. A soft knock on my door shattered the silence. I froze. 3 slow taps. Then his voice. "Quiet. Rehan." I didn't answer. But I didn't need to. The door creaked open, and Ayaan stepped inside, shirtless, wearing just a pair of loose joggers. His chest rose and fell slowly, his expression unreadable. He closed the door behind him. "I couldn't sleep," he said. I sat up, my voice hoarse. "Neither could I." Ayaan walked to the edge of the bed. "We need to talk." But neither of us did. He sat beside me. The mattress dipped under his weight. Our knees touched. My throat tightened. "You ever wonder," he said, "what would have happened if our parents never married?" "All the time." He let out a bitter laugh. "You think that makes it okay?" "No," I whispered. "But it makes it real." There was a long silence, thick with things we didn't dare say. Then he looked at me, and in his eyes I saw everything I felt reflected back: want, confusion, fear, and something deeper. "I've tried to ignore it," he admitted. "Tried to date women. Tried to stay away from you. But I can't fake it anymore." He placed a hand over mine. "I want you, Rehan. I've always wanted you." My chest ached. Every rational part of me screamed that this was wrong. That we were breaking something sacred. But the rest of me, the aching, lonely, hungry part, leaned in. I laced my fingers through his. "I want you too." That was all it took. He kissed me again. Harder this time. No hesitation. No pretending. His hands cradled my face, thumbs brushing my cheeks. My fingers tangled in his hair as I pulled him closer, anchoring myself to the only thing that felt real in that moment. We moved as if guided by instinct, like we'd both been waiting for permission to fall apart in each other's arms. His mouth found my neck. My breath hitched. His hands explored my back, my chest, my waist, bold, assured, tender. Clothes slipped away. Skin met skin. It wasn't rushed or messy. It was slow, deliberate, reverent. As if he needed to memorize every inch of me, like he was touching someone he dreamed of for years but never thought he'd have. And maybe that's exactly what it was. It wasn't just lust, it was release. From fear. From denial. From pretending that what we felt was wrong. We weren't brothers by blood. But that didn't make it simple. It only made it harder to justify how right it felt. In the dim glow from the hallway light, I saw him, not as my stepbrother, not as the forbidden, but as Ayaan. The man who saw me when no one else did. Who understood the parts of me I was too afraid to show anyone else. And in that moment, I let him in. Fully. Completely. We collapsed afterward, breathless and tangled in each other. My head on his chest, his arm draped over me like a shield. No words. Only the sound of his heartbeat, steady and real. I should have been ashamed. But I wasn't. I felt safe. I felt wanted. And for the first time in a long time, I felt seen. Hours later, I woke up alone. The bed was cold where he'd been. His side empty. No note. No sound. Just the distant hum of the air conditioner and the echo of what we'd done. I sat up, pulling the blanket around me, heart thudding. I wanted to call for him, to ask if he regretted it, to beg him not to disappear. But I didn't. Instead, I sat in the dark and let the silence swallow me whole. I knew the line we crossed wasn't just about family. It was about something deeper. Ayaan wasn't just my stepbrother. He was the person I trusted with the most vulnerable part of me. And now? Now he held a piece of me no one else had ever touched. I didn't know what tomorrow would look like. Whether he'd act like nothing happened or if he'd confess everything. But I knew one thing for sure. Nothing would ever be the same again. By morning, the weight of what we'd done had settled in the pit of my stomach like stone. I sat at the kitchen table, cradling a cup of lukewarm chai, eyes fixed on the untouched toast in front of me. The silence wasn't peaceful now. It was sharp, echoing with the memory of Ayaan's touch, his breath on my skin, the way he whispered my name like a secret he never meant to tell. He hadn't come back to bed. I didn't know if he was avoiding me, or avoiding himself. The clock ticked past 9 when I finally heard him come downstairs. I didn't look up, but I felt him behind me. He didn't speak. Just moved around the kitchen quietly, like a ghost retracing familiar steps. "Sleep well?" I asked, my voice brittle. He paused. "Not really." Silence stretched again, longer this time, until it became unbearable. "Are you going to pretend it didn't happen?" I asked, finally facing him. Ayaan leaned against the counter, arms crossed, eyes unreadable. "No." "Then what is this? Why won't you even look at me?" He met my gaze, and something shifted behind his eyes. Guilt, maybe, or fear. "Because I don't know what the fuck I'm supposed to say." "You don't have to say anything," I said. "Just don't run from me." "I'm not running." "You left," I snapped. He rubbed a hand across his face. "Because if I stayed, I'd have said things I can't take back. Things I'm not ready to face." I stood up, heart pounding. "Then be honest. Was it a mistake?" His answer came too fast. "No." He stepped closer. "It wasn't a mistake, Rehan. But it was dangerous." "I know that," I whispered. "But it didn't feel wrong when you kissed me. It didn't feel wrong when you touched me." His jaw clenched. "It didn't feel wrong because it wasn't. Not to me." That should have been enough. But the look on his face said it wasn't. "What happens now?" I asked. "I don't know." The doorbell rang. We both froze. Ayaan glanced at the clock. "That's them. They're back early." Panic surged through me. My mother. His father. Home early. The walls we'd torn down in the dark had to be rebuilt in daylight, and fast. Ayaan moved like someone walking across a minefield. He fixed his shirt, smoothed his hair, and in seconds, he was the version of himself the world expected, composed, distant, brotherly. He opened the door with a smile like nothing had happened. I stood at the edge of the hallway, invisible again. The weekend passed in fragments, stolen glances, tense silences, and quiet moments that spoke volumes. He avoided me. Not cruelly, but deliberately. Like I was something too fragile to hold again. We never talked about that night. We didn't have to. It lived between us, in the way he brushed past me in the hallway, in the way he wouldn't meet my eyes at dinner, in the way his hand trembled when it accidentally touched mine as we passed plates. I began to feel like a secret he regretted. One night, after our parents had gone to bed, I found him outside on the balcony, smoking a cigarette he didn't even seem to want. "You shouldn't smoke," I said, stepping beside him. He didn't look at me. I don't. Usually. I leaned on the railing, feeling the cool night air against my skin. "You miss being honest with me?" "I miss a lot of things," he said. I waited. "You scare me, Rehan." I turned to him. "Why?" "Because you make me feel like I'm allowed to want more than what I've settled for." He dropped the cigarette, crushed it under his heel. "I've spent so long pretending I was okay with the life carved out for me. With the rules. The expectations. But with you, I can't pretend. And that terrifies me." I stepped closer. "Then don't pretend." He looked at me then, truly looked. "I can't promise you a future. I don't even know if I can promise you tomorrow." "I'm not asking for a promise," I said. "Just don't disappear again." His hand brushed mine. Not a kiss. Not heat. Just contact. Real. Honest. "I won't." We remained a quiet storm, dangerous, beautiful, and always on the verge of unraveling. Nothing about our situation was easy. But it was real. We weren't just stepbrothers. We weren't just lovers. We were two men caught in a space between love and impossibility. And while the world outside demanded rules, inside that house, behind locked doors and guarded hearts, we had our own language. A touch. A glance. A night neither of us would ever forget. What comes next? Maybe more secret. Maybe more regrets. But maybe, just maybe, more nights like that one.